Okay, so this is what I call the rule of seven, and I'm going to give this to you when I do the sales pitch. I have a sales pitch that I was giving over customers, and one of the things that I try to introduce to them is the rule of seven. Now, this wasn't mine. This was taught to me a long time ago by sales seminars. I've been in sales a long time for commercial plumbing, and a lot of the companies that I work for, they send you on retreats in a way to get trained on how to sell. And I'm sure some of you, even watching this video, have been on these on these events where they teach you like body language, they teach you psychology. Like if you shake their hand, touch their elbow, it earns trust. You know, if you shake their hand and put your hand on their shoulder, it's dominating, and they don't like you when you do that. There's a whole bunch of tips and tricks, but I'm not gonna get into all of that because a lot of this is happening online. We're doing this so body language is kind of not even an option a lot of the times, especially when you're on like a Zoom call because you're just looking at them through a computer screen. But this was one that was taught to me a long time ago, and after all the years I've spent in sales, I fundamentally, to my very core, believe that this is 100% true. Now, what this means is that it takes between 7 to 13 points of contact, in between 7 and 13 points before somebody makes a sale, if they're going to make a sale at all. If it goes past that to 15 or 16, they're highly unlikely to make a sale. If it's before then, they're just not going to make that leap, right? Now, the cool thing is that there's ways that you could speed this up, right? Because there are variables at stake on why it takes 17. Now, this is the psychology, right? This is an infographic that I use to show people why I want to build out a funnel for them and how I want to do their marketing. Is I want to be coming from all these different directions, right? I want to get SEO, PPC, directory sites, website, capture page pop-ups, sales funnels, email lists, retargeting pixels, Facebook pixels. I want to do it all. I want to put you in front of the client, in front of your client as much as humanly possible so that your clients can get the points of 7 and they convert faster. And it works. Anybody who actually allows me to do this for them, their conversion rates go through the roof. It's great. And it's a great sales pitch. I'll give it to you later on in the course in this section. But the reason why I'm bringing this up now is because the only reason people buy from us are because of something called, and this is why the psychology works, 3 R's. I call this the 3 R's. Relationships, respect, and rapport. And the 3 R's equal trust. Now, a lot of us know, like we know those impulse shoppers, right? Oh, they were just impulsive. They just went out and bought it. And that might be true with somebody with a large budget and a credit card budget where they can just go out and buy things, and they're like, oh, okay. But for the most part, it's usually only like low dollar items, right? Like $5 items, $10 items. Those are impulse buys. For the sake of this course, we're not talking about low ticket items. We're talking about high ticket clients, okay? And there are no impulse purchases for high ticket items. It just doesn't happen. And if it does happen, it's in a 0.0001%, that low of a percentile when somebody actually makes an impulse buy. I think the only example would probably be if like somebody like purchased a car, right? Like they didn't know what car they were wanting to buy. Perhaps maybe they jumped online, fell in love with something right away and bought it. But even that rarely happens. The reason why it rarely happens is because it takes a lot of mentality to put thought into that before you actually take action, right? So let me rewind here. We have our consciousness and then we have our subconsciousness, right? Our subconsciousness is telling us stuff that we aren't even aware of it because it's in our subconscious. Our mind is filtering it out, right? Just like when you're looking at the world right now, you don't see everything. Your mind's focusing on one little tiny thing. Well, that's what your subconscious is doing too. It's filtering out a lot of stuff. So when something comes in and says, new Dodge Ram, and you're like, nah, it's subconscious. And then you're driving down the street and you see a Dodge Ram, and you're like, oh, that's a cool color, Dodge Ram, right? And then your friend talks about a Dodge Ram. And you're like, I've been hearing a lot about Dodge Rams lately, right? Now all of a sudden you've got 3 points of contact, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and you're ready to buy, right? Now you have interest. Now you're going to look it up. Now you're going to be like, I wonder what they go for. And you look it up. You see what I'm saying? So you think you're being impulsive because a lot of the times it's not kicking in. Your consciousness isn't kicking in until the later points of contact, right? What was the Oh gosh, I wish I could remember. That would be so awesome to. I don't know if I should research it. I know you get those all the time when you're watching YouTube. You'll get a random survey. Did you notice this ad? This, and then they'll have like a list of them. And you're like, I didn't see any of those. What? If you ever read the data for these surveys, Entrepreneur Magazine has them. You can read them online. If you ever read the data for these surveys, YouTube's showing them to you. So chances are you saw the ad like 6 or 7 times without even noticing it. Just subconscious just kind of filtered it out, right? But that seventh time, you're like, yeah, I noticed it. So even they have the data that you, like right away, people don't act. Which is why Facebook ads work so well with the impressions, right? The more impressions you get, the more likely people are. So they know the type of audience that's going to be likely to, because they've seen similar ads, so they know that you're going to click on this one. That's how they know it, because they follow the rule of 7. It's all part of the algorithms, right? It's funny, but believe me, that's like the number one thing why it takes time for anyone to buy. Even if you think that you're impulsive, you're not. Your subconscious is doing a lot of the work for you, okay? That impulse actually took quite a bit of finessing to get you in. Now, with that being said, the reason why is a defense mechanism. We are defensive. We are reluctant by nature. You ever notice how human beings love to shop? We love to buy, but we hate being sold to. Let that sink in. That's my favorite epiphany that I had as a salesman. Is that people love to buy, but they hate to be sold to. I used that to my advantage. I did my best every single time I pitched to somebody to not pitch. I turn into I'm a doctor with a clipboard and I'm diagnosing an illness. That's it. And then I write them a prescription. Here, this is what's going to solve your problem. I'm not selling you anything. This is what's going to fix you. This is what's bothering you. This is what fixes it. And seriously, that is like such a mind-blowing effort to use with somebody, is that I'm not selling you anything. I'm not. Right? Any of you that have come through this course and you watched my webinar, you'll notice I just like turned the fire hose on you and started giving you all this information, just tons and tons of information. And by the time you get to the end of it, you're like, I can't do all that. That's a lot of information, right? So I write you the prescription. Here's how you do it. Take my course step by step. See what I'm saying? Plus, the whole time that I did that, I was building respect. I was building a relationship and I was building rapport. I earned your trust, right? It's the same thing with anything else. Why? And anybody who says it doesn't work, then why does McDonald's have so many billboards and locations and commercials still? Even though they have millions of stores, why would they need to advertise? I think my son actually asked me that once. And he's like, why do they have to advertise? They're so big, people are going to eat there anyway. And I'm like, it's not true. It's not true. Because people have to be constantly reminded of it. Boom, boom, boom. 7 points before they make action. Yeah. And especially when you're just starting out, if you don't have any case studies or testimonials, I'm going to have a sales pitch. It's an awesome sales pitch. So there's a way that you can actually build this and get those 7 points of contact with your clients within one meeting. And this is actually really powerful too. I imagine that it could be used for like car dealers. Car dealers are like the one salesman that's the worst, because they have to close in this little tiny amount of time, right? They have an hour where they're walking around the lot and they got to try to close the sale, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever. And so it's a lot of pressure on them. But I'm going to show you how it's possible to do that. You could take cold traffic or cold prospect and warm them up through the sales pitch, because you're not pitching them. It's a presentation. Does that make sense? You're a doctor, and you're with your clipboard and you're diagnosing the illness. You're writing it down on your clipboard, diagnosing it, and by the time you get to the end of the pitch, well, here's the prescription. Here's what I suggest. A lot of the times they don't like it, and you can readjust. But the point is, it's all about respect. It's all about earning that relationship and earning that trust. Does that make sense? It's real, guys. And if you stick to this and you stick to this method, it's going to be a million times easier to close clients, right? Because I've mentioned this before in the webinar, I've mentioned in the mini course, is that just a simple conversation will do. So many people are like, oh man, I have to learn how to close. I have to learn how to shake their hand and touch their elbow. No, you just have a conversation. Learn how to have a conversation. There's people out there and they want help getting their business out there. They want help making money. It's plain and simple, right? And if you offer that help, they're going to listen. Not if you're pitching, right? If you walk in, you're like, I can fix that for you for $39.95. No, thank you. Jumping in their DM, you're like, hey, have you ever considered Facebook ads? No, they're not going to listen to you. But if they're having a conversation with somebody on Facebook and they're in a conversation, you jump in and you're like, hey, man, I know how you can fix that. Yeah, have you ever considered Facebook retargeting? Yeah. You'll have to run a small campaign and learn the audience real quick, but you can do an engagement campaign, get some shares, get some likes, even grow your social media a little bit in the process. But you'll be learning the audience, and then you can turn around and retarget if you ever consider doing that. And then now you've caught their attention because you're not selling anything, you're helping them. Mind-blowing, right? Relationship, respect, rapport. Build it. Takes time. Previous video, don't be lazy. Get to work. Work on that respect, the relationship, the rapport. And you'll be in good shape, I promise.